What's the difference between fact and assumption? Welcome to Critical Thinking Scan, where we look at how you can think about any faith-challenging message and arrive at a biblical, logical conclusion yourself. I'm Patricia Engler, and today I'll be unpacking check number 6 of the 7 checks of critical thinking which any Christian can use based on the techniques that helped me as a Christian student at secular university. And check number 6 of thinking critically about any message is check the interpretations. See, when I was a student, my classes presented all sorts of information as facts that supposedly supported evolutionary origins. And lots of the information did involve scientific facts, including descriptions of fossils like this one. But other information involved interpretations of those facts, like the alleged ages of the fossils. And those interpretations were based on assumptions, yet they were often presented as though they were concrete facts themselves. Now, the important thing to remember when thinking about facts versus interpretation is that everybody observes the same world, the same rocks, same trees, and same fossils. So we all have access to the same facts, but we interpret those facts differently by looking at them through different worldview lenses, man's word or God's word. So someone looking at this fossil through the glasses of God's word might say, wow, that's great evidence for something happening quickly in a global flood. But someone looking at this same fossil through secular glasses might say, wow, that's great evidence for something happening slowly over millions of years. And that's the interpretation which will be presented as fact in secular classrooms and cultures. So how do we detangle the real facts from interpretations of facts? Well, to do that, we need to think about those two different types of science, observational science and historical science. Remember, observational science uses the scientific method to measure and describe and experiment on things that we can observe in the present, like the size and mass and species identification of this fossil. Historical science, however, interprets those facts to draw conclusions about the past, like how and when and why this fish became a fossil. See, that event happened one time in history, and we can't directly observe it happening right now in the present. We can only make educated guesses. So when you encounter a message that seems to challenge a biblical worldview, you can figure out which parts of the message are facts and which parts are interpretations by first identifying the observational science involved. Ask, what are the measurements and observations and raw data here that everyone can agree on, and are those measurements accurate? Those accurate measurements and descriptions about the present are the facts in the message. Next, you want to identify the historical science. Ask, what are the assumptions or speculations or educated guesses that are filling in for the gaps in the facts right now? And one way to do this is to beware of red flag words like could, might, maybe, probably, possibly, and may. You see those words in many evolutionary contexts, and they signal that you're dealing with historical science, a possible explanation and not a definite fact. Something else that's important to remember is that there's probably a lot more to the story than what you're hearing. Likely, what you're hearing is the most polished presentation of the secular side of the story. So the next step is to look for alternative explanations. Ask, what's another way of looking at this, and how would someone interpret this same fact through a biblical lens? You can go to solid apologetics websites like Answers in Genesis to find out, or you can ask a biblical creationist mentor, or research what other scientists have said about the same topics. All right, so let's say that you saw this fossil in a museum where a guide is explaining, well, this 300 million year old fossil likely formed because when this fish died, it sank to a lake bottom where sediment slowly covered its body and permineralized the bones over a long period of time. How would you separate the facts there from interpretation? Well, the fact from observational science is that this is a fish fossil. The interpretation is that it formed slowly over 300 million years ago, and an alternative explanation from a biblical perspective is that it formed quickly during the flood described in Genesis. This is all under step number 6 of the 7 checks of critical thinking, check the interpretations. For more on how to think critically about any faith-challenging message, you can access my other CT scan videos packed with tactics, tips, and tools that helped me as a Christian student at secular university. Thank you for watching. Hey, it's Patricia. Just wanted to let you know that if you like these videos, a free, easy way to help Answers in Genesis Canada produce more content and equip more people to defend their faith is to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, click the bell, and of course share these resources. I know you might hear that kind of thing a lot, but the reason these actions are so important is they inform social media algorithms to help these videos reach more people who can benefit from them. And that's especially helpful because advertising is super expensive. But this way, even media platforms which are often unfriendly towards biblical content become tools to promote gospel outreach for free. And if you're on board to share this message of biblical authority and want to give, you can also make a one-time donation or become a monthly supporter by clicking the link below. Thank you so much.